So today we're going to be starting Objective 3, which is learning targets 6, 7, and 8. This objective talks about how to convert between factored form, vertex form, and standard form. So if you have one type of equation, you can rearrange it and turn it into a different type depending on the information that you need. For example, learning target 6 says I can convert a quadratic function from factored form to standard form. So if you have factored form, which tells you the solutions or the x-intercepts, and let's say you want to know what the y-intercept is, you can rearrange this function, and then you can look to see what the c value is in standard form, and that will give you the y-intercept. So this is a really great skill to have, so that no matter what type of equation you have, you can rearrange it to be a different type and then get different information from it. So to convert a quadratic function from factored form to standard form, we really just use the distributive property. But I'm going to write above distributive property, superpowered distributive property, because it's not just the normal distributive property that we all know and love, it's a superpowered one. We're not just distributing one term over several terms in parentheses, we're distributing more than one term over several terms in parentheses. So the way that we do this is, if we have this right here, it says f of x equals x plus 1 times x minus 5. First, we're going to take the first term over here, this x, and we're going to multiply it by the x and the negative 5. That's the first part. So x times x gives us x squared, so we have f of x equals x times x is x squared, and x times negative 5 is negative 5x. Now, we're going to take this 1, positive 1 really, and do the same thing. So 1 times x is a positive 1x, and a positive 1 times a negative 5 is a negative 5. And now we can just combine like terms and have our equation in standard form. So x squared, there's no other x squared, so we can just leave that alone. We have negative 5x plus 1x. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4, so now we have negative 4x's minus 5. So by using the distributive property, really twice, because we have two things that we're distributing over this, we end up with x squared minus 4x minus 5. Let's look at this next one. We have f of x equals, now we're going to leave the 2 alone for right now. We're just going to keep everything we do in these parentheses right here, because this 2 is multiplying all of it. So we have x times x and x times negative 6, so that would be x squared minus 6x, because x times x is x squared, and x times negative 6 is negative 6x. And then we're going to take this negative 3 and multiply this by each of these. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 6 is a positive 18. Now I can combine like terms. So I have f of x equals 2. I'm still going to keep everything together in here. So I have x squared, negative 6x minus 3x is negative 9x plus 18. So now if I want, I can distribute that 2 throughout everything. So now I have 2x squared minus 18x plus 36. I just multiplied everything by this 2. Okay? Let's look at the next one. So here, same type of deal. We have this negative 3 out front, this a value of negative 3. So we're just going to leave that alone for now. And just worry about simplifying these using the distributive property. So x times x and x times 7. X times x is x squared. X times 7 is 7x. And then we take the 2. 2 times x is 2x. And 2 times 7 is 14. Then we can put those together in the middle there, these two, with just the plain x's. So we really have x squared plus 9x plus 14, because 7x plus 2x is 9x. And then lastly, if we want, we can combine, or we can distribute this negative 3 to all of those. So we end up with f of x equals negative 3x squared minus 27x minus, let's see, 42. Negative 3 times 14 is 42, negative 42. Okay? Now let's look at this one over here. This one is a little bit more like the distributive property that we're used to. We're not distributing two things to both of those. We're just distributing the one thing to both of those. So we end up with f of x equals our 3. And then in parentheses, we have x squared minus 4x. Because x times x is x squared, and x times negative 4 is negative 4x. And then if we want to distribute that 3, we end up with 3x squared minus 12x. We multiply everything in those parentheses by the 3. And this equation is in standard form, even though it doesn't look like it. It just has a c value of 0 out there. So in this equation, c actually just equals 0. Okay, so if we wanted to know what the y-intercept of each of these equations were, the y-intercept here would be negative 5. The y-intercept of this equation would be 36. The y-intercept of this equation would be negative 42. And the y-intercept of this equation would be 0. And that is how you switch from factored form into standard form, by using the superpowered distributive property.